And we are here at AEGC in sunny Perth, and I'm thrilled we've got Jon Hronsky joining us today from Western Mining Services. Thank you for chatting to me today, Jon.
Oh, very happy to be here, Jessica.
It's awesome. We haven't actually done a interview together. You've been on Geohug, but
I have, yeah.
It's very exciting to have this time with you, so thank you.
No problem.
So your talk has been a big highlight for AEGC this year on how we should be doing mineral exploration better. So what were some of the key takeaways from your talk?
Look, what I identified was 4 areas, and of course there's many, but just to keep it at a high level that I think we could really focus on. And the first one is better ways of allocating capital to our industry so that our good juniors aren't starved of capital and can actually put in place the sort of programs we need for new world-class greenfields discovery. And we know there's a lot of capital in the world.
Yep.
And to be honest, a lot of it's not always allocated very well, things like the AI boom and whatever.
Yep.
We need to get some of that capital into greenfields exploration, which is a massively important thing that our global economy needs, you know, the discovery. So we've got to work out a way of doing it, and I think it means that we have to be innovative and we have to think about new models for how we do that. And I talked about an idea, we call it the exploration aggregator model for how we do it. And it's exciting to me that there are some groups. Ilium out of New York, for example, is a group led by a young startup led by a young entrepreneur, Kai Hand, who's starting to think about this way. So that's exciting. Then I sort of segued from what was fundamentally a commercial issue to a technical one. And that is, how do we target greenfields better? And the main point that I was trying to drive is, while I think it's really well established now that we've got to understand fundamental structure of the lithosphere, I think that the really critical way to then take that to the next level is to understand the geodynamic history of these areas at as high resolution as we can. That's probably been, from my perspective, the biggest learning over me actually doing this as a day job for a couple of decades, is understanding that geodynamic history starts to become very, very predictive. Like, I believe that ore bodies are the predictable consequence of the evolution, the history of their terrains.
And so the going back to the raising capital and those markets, what's a really high level summary of the model that you're proposing?
I think the model is that we need an interface between capital and juniors that has credibility and trust on both sides of that interface. At some level it's a social thing, but it also, trust is important. Also fairness, right? I think there have been efforts to have partnering models in the past, but I feel like they haven't, and not necessarily through any fault of anyone trying to do anything wrong, but I think they haven't necessarily considered the whole portfolio from investment to eventual discovery to mining a discovery, and how we share the benefits from that. Because fundamentally you've got to share it from between 3 groups. You've got to share it between the initial investors who put the capital in, the junior companies who are taking the risks and applying the entrepreneurial expertise, but then finally the major mining company who's the customer, right? Because they're not going to be interested in it if they can't get the asset and still have a value in it for them. So we've got to work out a way, and you can only do that at the sort of the system scale for effectively sharing that that value.
Okay. That's really cool. And so there obviously, as you've pointed, are still some challenges that mineral exploration faces, but what are some of the main things that you're really excited for in exploration?
Look, the thing that I'm most excited about are these new high-resolution data sets we're getting. And, I'm fortunate to be in WA, where our geological survey is investing in this WA array. Very high-resolution mapping of the crust and lithosphere. That is going to be a superb data set for helping us understand the evolution, which, as I just said earlier, is critical. But also understanding these important cryptic structures. So I think that's just the start of a journey. And as we get more and more detailed 3-dimensional imaging of the crust, I think, and the lithosphere, I think that's really going to drive our predictive capability. And I think the history of our science is quite clear, Jessica, in that when we get major new spatial data sets available to us, that's when we have the big leaps. We're spatial science, right? So getting the map of the seafloor topography, which came out of the Second World War, anti-submarine warfare, straight line between that and plate tectonic revolution because it was a new data set.
Yep.
When we started to get image processed geophysics, magnetics and then gravity that looked like geology, and I'm old enough to have been pre that era and be excited when that arrived in the late 80s. And it was just eye-opening. And all of a sudden, all these areas, like before you might have had a few islands of outcrop and the rest of it was just young cover.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you could see the geology, the Gawler Craton, the Yilgarn Craton, and it gave you a completely new perspective, which then elevated your understanding. So I'm really looking forward to that same elevation that's going to come through these new data sets. And some of the really exciting work my colleague Graham Begg with his global lithospheric architectural map, that is advancing all the time as a really, really fundamental data set. So,
Yeah. I just love your passion. Like, it's really fun just listening to you and your knowledge and your passion for geoscience. I could listen to it all day, but I'm just curious you're such a respected expert, and what sort of pivotal moments in your career, like what got you into geoscience, and how did your path go the way it did?
Well, first of all, I grew up in Kalgoorlie, and my dad had worked and did work as a geologist. So even though I never said that was the reason why I did it, but it's obviously an influence. And I went to the Kalgoorlie School of Mines. But I was very lucky in the mentoring opportunities that I had.
Yeah.
So I joined Western Mining Corporation, which was under the late great Roy Woodall, who was a major leader of that and a major thinker and a thought leader and innovator in that exploration space. And, so I benefited from that. I was fortunate enough through the good graces of the company to go on study leave for 3 years to be supported, to do my PhD.
Awesome. Yeah.
I could not have done that. I didn't come from a wealthy background, so I couldn't have done that otherwise.
Yeah.
So that was pivotal. And then when I went to UWA, I was really fortunate to have as my supervisor Professor David Groves.
Yep.
And David really looked at things very differently to most of his colleagues, a lot more aligned in academia, a lot more aligned with the Roy Woodall view of the world, which was seeing the big picture and integrating across scales, all those things that you'll hear me talk about. I mean, that's where I got it from, and just looking at the importance of the big picture, and I suppose that probably the third thing was when Western Mining asked me to be a nickel sulfide specialist, and I started thinking about, at that stage there was 11 major ore deposits in the nickel space that we'd like to find, and there was basically 7 different geological models. And I looked at it and I started to realise they were all the same, right? So that was the key insight. And they're all the same if you look at it from the perspective of the physics, not the chemistry.
Yeah.
So, that's been to me the greatest insight about mineral systems, is we've got to think about these things as dynamic physical systems. I sometimes say to people, we've got to remember that all bodies are fossils, right?
Yeah.
And they were alive once. And if we want to understand them, it's like if we want to understand that Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton, we've got to imagine what it was when it was a living animal, not a big pile of bones. And all bodies are no different. We've got to understand what these things were like when they were actually moving and shaking.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. What advice would you give to early career geoscientists that want to make their mark on the industry?
Look, I think the key cognitive skill that you need to do a good job in probably all sorts of geoscience, but definitely exploration geoscience, is to understand the world that you're operating in through the lens of multiple scales, not just one, right? Understand that at each scale, the key observations might be different, but they'll relate to the next scale down. So how does that all fit together? So think at that scale. Think about it all the way up to the evolution of the Earth and all the way down to the micro scale, and try and get that model in your mind and try and understand how it manifests at each scale. The other thing I would say is, talk to people who've been in the industry for a long time, because there is a real value in this industry of learning from experience. It's not, maybe there are other fields where some young Turk can come in and totally change things. And I think there's always a role for innovation, but I think there's a whole body of sort of tacit knowledge about how exploration, I'm not talking about geoscience now, I'm talking exploration works, that you can do a very good job of learning from the old grey hairs. Or white hairs.
I love that. No, it's good advice. It's, yeah, having good mentors around and wisdom to learn from is always really important, I think. Yep. But lastly, I'm very excited because you've bought a little pocket-sized pet rock for me today.
I have.
What have we got?
I need a pretty big
I need
pocket.
the story. I know.
Okay, well, first of all, this was a rock that was given to me by a friend, Barbara Duggan, who's also a geologist from Canada.
Yeah.
And it is my favourite rock because it's a very special one. So what this rock represents is a sample, but not just any sample, of the massive sulphide deposit, nickel copper sulphide deposit called the Ovoid, which was part of the Voisey's Bay discovery that was made in Labrador in 1994.
Right.
And the amazing thing about the Ovoid, as you might tell from its name, it was an ovoid-shaped volume of massive sulphide, about 200 metres across and about, 150 metres deep, 30 million tonnes, right?
Yeah.
Sitting there at the surface, right at the surface. And the great thing about this sample is it proves it was at the surface because see that surface there? They're glacial striations. So that's where the Quaternary Glacier went off the top of this. So this is literally massive sulphide. You can see it, if you zoom in, you can see the shiny yellow chalcopyrite that convinces you it's massive sulphide. And yeah, that was right at the surface. So amazing discovery by the Diamond Fields guys, more than 30 years ago now, I guess. But amazing to think that was right at the surface.
Yes, right up top. So this part here was facing...
If you had moss on top, you peeled away the moss.
It was
Jessica,
right there.
That's what you would have seen.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is really cool. Thank you for bringing that along. And I honestly could just listen to you, like you just have so much knowledge and I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to talk with you. So thank you for spending this time with me.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I love talking about this stuff.
I know, you've got such a great passion. It's amazing.
So I'll do it any day of the week.
It's infectious. Thank you so much, Jon.
Pleasure.